Hey everyone, in addition to the channel content year in review, I wanted to do a competitive year in review, or I guess a little over a year since we're going to Splatoon 3. So, this is recorded in early December, just as a point of reference when the new stuff has just come out. Figured now is a good time to talk about it, and, you know, just gonna be kind of at my own pace talking about what happened this year and what I think and all that stuff. I have a bit to go over, so. How do we start with this? So, when I went from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2, I was just becoming a more higher level player, like got a few results over some solid teams, nothing major. And I was a free agent, basically. And a bit into Splatoon 2, I joined a top level team called Neptune, a brand new one that I made with my friend. Or my friend made with me, rather. They were captain of it anyway, but it was my first real experience getting into top-level Splatoon, fighting teams like Saikai, for instance, if anyone remembers that. And, you know, I got to learn a lot, and I improved quickly, and I kind of got into top-level. Fast forward, I made it to 2 other teams with Prophecy and Climb at different points, and both of those were able to reach a good level and get good results, particularly Prophecy, of course, where, you know, 1 game off NA champions, a few wins over major teams. I think even some tournaments that would count as a major by today's standards. And, you know, it wasn't like consistently being the best team at any point, but it was being really damn close. And eventually in late 2022, I kind of stepped back from competitive for the last year, so I didn't really have a team. I wanted to have fun with weapons like Grim Range Blaster that I didn't really believe in competitively, but just wanted to play. Stuff like Dynamo Roller, and I just kind of, you know, play the game more casual competitive, more for fun. And didn't really think about it as much. Didn't really practice as much. And going into Splatoon 3, I went into it with the approach that I'm making a new team with people who I know well, and I've been at top level for a while, and I think I have the knowledge and stuff that it takes to become one of the best teams in the scene. That was really my goal, to get to the next level of competitives, to start winning majors. I really wanted a major win this year. Wanted to go back to NA champs. Didn't really care about winning it, I just wanted to have that experience. That was a big thing for me. And, you know, do all of that stuff. Fast forward, that didn't happen. And yeah, that's kind of the main point of this video. I think this year was mostly, you know, it wasn't awful, but in terms of meeting the goals I wanted, it was a bit of a failure. I didn't get to NA champs, even if by only 1 slot in both qualifiers, which sucks. I didn't win a major, and while I got some upsets and solid results throughout this year with my team, and even a few without my team, I didn't really get any of the ones I wanted, and there were definitely a lot of close sets where we could have beat important teams, such as like beating Kings in the Ideal tournament earlier this year. And that's been kind of rough, you know, mentally. It feels like I've fallen off at times, and I know that's not true, but mentally it feels like that. I think what I didn't see coming, and a lot of people saw coming, is just how stacked top level got. It's really completely different than any comparable years. Like, even a few years ago, you would just, like, you would have those few teams at the top, and then you would have a few other top teams that were kind of close to there, and it would be, like, maybe 8 teams total. And there wouldn't be really as many to think about. And now, you know, for top level, there's FT-Win, there's Starburst, there's Alliance Rogue, there's Jackpot, all very even with each other. There's other top teams that have gone very close to beating them, like Moonlight in particular. There's a lot of other notable top teams, like Black Lotus, or Bennett, or us, for instance, we fall into there at some point, Heller, and a bunch of others. The amount of top teams, and especially very top teams who can win events, has never been as stacked as it was, and of course that makes consistency a lot harder, especially in a game that is way harder and more out of your control than Splatoon 2 was. I don't want that to be an excuse, just really something I didn't expect. Despite that, I still think I could have been at the level I wanted to, and I'm still, of course, disappointed that it didn't happen. But of course, with any amount of failure comes a little bit of opportunity to learn, so let's go over a few more stuff. First off, my weapon pool. In Splatoon 2, the most aggressive thing I played was Kensa Rapid Blaster, mostly because it had Balder, in terms of being aggressive. The main and sub aren't really the most up there thing. There's Brella, which I played with a pretty passive playstyle, even if I was very effective at it. And then, of course, I dabbled a lot in support with stuff like Splattershot Jr., a little bit of NZAP, some H3, and my favorite, of course, being Kunder during that era, which was really fun. And as a whole, my weapon pool in Splatoon 2 became very midline, became very understand what's going on, make the shot calls that are necessary, and be in the more supportive role. That's where I was comfortable, because that's kind of where I was forced to play. And going into this game, a lot of the weapons I swapped to ended up being more aggressive stuff, like Splatana Stamper, stuff like the S-Blast, Range Blaster. And, you know, there was some other stuff, like mainly Rapid Deco that I picked up recently, that's been a little bit more passive, and the Splatana Stamper Nuvo, which is, again, is a bit more passive. But in general, my role has been switched a lot more to frontline. And while I've enjoyed that to some degree, I think it's clear that I am not the greatest Slayer player. I've had some really good moments in tournament, for sure. I've had some really good sets where I play well aggressively at times. But it's not at the level of consistency that I want. Maybe with a different kit or something that could change, something like Custom Range Blaster with a kit I'd be more comfortable with and have stuff to fall back on could help. Oh, and I forgot to mention I played Brella in this game. I played Brella a bit. I forgot. Use that weapon. Yeah, anyway. I think I've come to the conclusion that, especially given that I'm in a team full of frontline players, that frontline isn't really my best role. And while I can still flex to these weapons when the time calls for it, because there are times where I'm needed to be more aggressive, I think letting myself be someone who hangs back a bit more is something that's important. And that gets into my team's playstyle, where I think we've dealt with some of the similar problems where we struggled a lot when the game came out, you know, especially since we were missing our full lineup for a bit and had to get another player. And we didn't really have a playstyle that worked for this game compared to S2. But eventually, we figured out a style that really worked for us, and it's the iconic comp people still know us for most of the time, which is the double Splatana, double splash comp that we did. And a lot of the lesson I took from that meta is that, well, the comp worked because it was pretty close to being meta. It was Stamper and double splash, which was meta. The only thing we didn't have was Machine, and even then we implemented it at the end, and Wiper was still a very good weapon. I think what I missed when we started switching from comps from there is that we worked very well with this backless, aggressive, flexible type of comp. A lot of the things we switched to after was stuff like Ballpoint or Pencil, while they were good strategies and we had people who could play them well, ended up being things that were far away from our comp. And it's not that we don't run those anymore, but I think it's come to a realization that, like the sense that I need to play weapons that I am mechanically better and more consistent at, especially as this meta becomes more open, it's important that our team plays to a style that we're way better at, and hence we've been moving to these more aggressive comps. And I've been put on things like Rapid Deco and Splatana Stamper Nuvo. Wish I had a cooler option to play back here, but, you know, maybe that'll happen one day. And that's been a bit different for me. And it's been, you know, a bit better, I think. It's been a role where I can still be aggressive when the time calls for it. It's still weapons that I feel comfortable with using and motivated to play, but it's in a style that more fits the flexibility I have. And then there's still times I flex to other things, of course, when the time calls for it. And that's been something that I think has been better for me or my team. We haven't really done a tournament since, so, you know, have to see if it works outside of practice as well, where things have been going better, and it's far from the only problems we have to deal with, but, you know, it's a start, so I'm happy with that. I'd say if there's anything I regret most, potentially, it would be, of course, using the vanilla S-Blast in the NA Opens. Definitely a weapon I overhyped a bit. I was very mechanically good with it, and we came close to winning with it, of course. But, if, you know, knowing what we do now about where the weapon is, I have gone back and thought, like, how well would I do with different things. At the same time, I don't really blame myself too much. The main thing I was planning to use for most of the tournament was Machine, and Machine got its 5-frame nerf 2 days before that tournament happened. And, well, you know, who knows how well that would have gone, and with things like Cooler being introduced and very new, a lot of people thought Machine would struggle a lot with it, including me, and so, you know, we had to make a call. And at the end of the day, I'm more annoyed that the most impactful patch of the entire season, nerfing all 4 of the top tiers and completely shaping the meta from crap to Cooler, happened right before the NA Open. And I really hope next year, whenever these qualifiers and events happen, that there's a bit more consideration taken there. The NA Open playoffs itself for top 4 got to take place on an earlier patch, which was nice for the people there, so we'll see. But, I mean, I do still think about it with what if I did play something else. The only other really thing to talk about is I do think I have a bit more mentality problems. It doesn't show a lot of the time because a lot of this is when I have private practice with my team, but I do get too invested or worried about how things go in sets at times. And my ability to focus on what my role needs to be, give constructive criticism, and stay focused on what needs to be done is something that definitely got a bit worse, or at least I got a bit more invested in. Maybe the break of not having a team to be invested in for a while or the higher stakes got to me. But I think I've gotten better at it recently, but there's still a lot of work to be done. At the end of the day, I'm still okay with where progress happened, and who knows, maybe next year could be redemption for me. I still didn't really drop off a ton. I still made a lot of progress, and I figured out a lot about myself, and hopefully that can lead to performing better next year. Who knows? But for the time being, I think it's worth acknowledging that, yeah, this year didn't really go as planned, and I'm gonna try to do better next year, and hopefully we'll see that happen. I think it's an important thing to review, and, you know, I can only hope for the best going forward. So, yeah, I appreciate all the support to me or my team over the past year. It really does mean a lot to me. Anyone who's supported us in tournaments or come to streams to watch us play and stuff, I really do appreciate it, and I hope that we can do better for you guys next year, or whatever, depending on how things go. And, yeah. This has been my competitive year in review. Thanks so much for watching.